Today I'm going to be talking about Abraham from the Bible. Now first, let me talk about where he appeared for the first time in the Bible. Abraham, or Abram. He has four names from Hebrew language. Okay, he came from a family line of Terah, and he had two brothers called Nahor and Haran. Haran has a son called Lot. Now, in the book of Genesis, it also said that when he's 75 years old, he had to move from his homeland, Mesopotamia, in the city of Ur, to a whole new place, which is the land of Canaan. And who told him that? God. God told him that, to move from Mesopotamia to the land of Canaan, which is the promised land. And he did it without any doubt. He took his wife, Sarai, or will be later known as Sarah, and his nephew Lot, and also other accompanants there too. And he built an altar made with sacred tree. In the book of Genesis, again, everything is in the book of Genesis. God told Abraham that he will have a son with Sarah in 1 year. But then Abraham kind of was like, really? I'm already 99 years old, Sarah is 98, how come we're so old? But God was like, through me you can do anything. And in the Genesis verse 21, God did as he said. Abraham was 100 years old while Sarah is 99, and they gave birth to a son named Isaac. Now to the other side of the story, Abraham also fathered a son with a Egyptian slave called Ishmael. That slave woman is called Hagar. And everything was fine until one day Sarah saw Ishmael playing with Isaac's toy. And she started to be scared and afraid, like, I need to read this for you guys. It's so spicy. Get rid of the slave woman and her son. Send them away. When we die, our son Isaac will get everything we have. I don't want that slave woman sharing things with my son Isaac. She was quite afraid and angry because there was an exclamation mark in that verse 2. Abraham was of course also angry. They kind of almost get into a fight because Abraham was mad. But then God was like, don't worry about the boy with the slave woman. I will bless him because he is your descendants. And however, your descendants will be those who come through Isaac. But I will make Ishmael a great nation too. The next day, sadly, Ishmael and Hagar has to leave from the land of Canaan to the desert of Beersheba. God continued to be with the boy until he grew up to be a hunter. He is very good in shooting bows and arrow, and they lived happily there. Now the other story of Abraham, which is in Genesis chapter 22. God tests Abraham. This is a very famous story too, though. God tests Abraham. He told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac to him in the mountain of Moriah. And Abraham almost did it, but then God sent an angel to tell him that God was just testing him and he don't have to sacrifice Isaac. It's actually a resemblance of Jesus' death too. Anyways, let's go back to the story. Abraham then offered a ram as a sacrifice instead. Now, God was like, you obeyed me, even though I told you to sacrifice your own son to me, you did it. So God was like, I will bless you and your descendants. You will have as many descendants as the sand in the shore and the stars in the sky. By the end of Abraham's life, he was concerned that Isaac might find an excuse to move out from the land of Canaan, which is where God wanted them to be. So Abraham decided to find a plan. He arranged a trip to find a wife for Isaac. And he did found one, Rebecca, the young daughter of Abraham's nephew Bethuel. Abraham found Rebecca for Isaac, and Isaac luckily fell in love with her, and they married later on. By the end of Abraham's life, when Sarah died, he remarried with a woman called Keturah and fathered 6 more sons, and he died and was buried in Hebron. The sons which is from Keturah are, I need need to read this. Simran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. And they're all from Abraham. So basically he had 8 kids. And Isaac has another 2 sons, which is Jacob and Esau. And Hagar had Ishmael, which all of them has many descendants. And yes, that's what God told them. He will give them descendants as many as seashore and the sand of the seashore and the stars in the sky. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.